Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Get connected, Fitchburg. Sign up for Fitchburg Connect, the city's monthly e-newsletter that keeps you informed about all the events, services, and updates that matter to you. Get it in your inbox once a month. Sign up today to get Fitchburg Connect.
Good evening. I'm calling to order tonight's Community Equity Advisory Committee for the City of Fitchburg on April 22nd, 2026, sorry. Call the order. Do we do a vote for that? No, just call the order. Thank you. And moving right along, we're gonna move into number 2, approval of minutes. So I'll take a motion to approve.
I move to approve.
Is there a second? Great, Bill, thanks for the second. So the minutes for the March 25th meeting have been approved.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. And then item number 3, public appearances for non-agenda items, and there are no appearances. So we'll move right along. And tonight, our main work today will be looking at our equity tool document it's a rubric that we're going to be using, considering to look at as we look at different city reports and work, and both to give those folks who are presenting and ourselves a tool to evaluate equity and how it's showing up within those reports. So we're going to go into that document and get some feedback from the committee members and do some work in real time of that document. And then is there anything else, Sarah, that I need to make a... So we'll go ahead and move into that, and I'm going to share that. Hold on one second. Documents, I'm in control, I forgot. Equity toolkits. And this is the toolkit. So I'm going to just open the floor for comments. We can just have a free-flowing working meeting, so I'm not going to call anyone. We'll just continue a conversation around our thoughts around the toolkit, and I'll work on adding details in the as we have the discussion. Does anyone want to go first?
Sure. No, I had a chance to review the document pretty extensively, and overall, I think it looks great. I have a few suggestions, but they're mostly either grammatical or just something to do with the context and that. But other than that, I think all of the categories that are there are necessary, and it looks like they all are represented well. I also see that the way the process worked, it was a well-defined 1 and 2, and then when you get to a 3, 4, it's almost like you kind of split the document in half. You can tell that which levels you obviously want to see the work done at, which is levels 1 and 2, obviously, but it's pretty well defined.
I would agree that I think overall this is fantastic, and I do think it'll help folks as they're both looking at things or developing RFPs or whatever it is. I think we'll get better outcomes overall. Similarly, I had just like some language, like shoring up some things, because as we progress down, it was a little confusing to me, like what we wanted them to do. And so just adding a little more context into some of those and what do we mean by like the 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of thing. So just a little more context, I think, in those areas. But overall, I mean, I think it's a great start. I think it's very helpful.
So I feel like we're making some general comments. We can get into the details in a second. I would say my general comments are maybe a color coding to make it more readable. Like, you know, we have a color coding for in the West for fire threats. So like green's good, you're good to go. There's maybe a red area, and then we want to concentrate on some work there. That might be helpful for us and also anyone using the tool to really kind of highlight the priorities within it. The few things, I think one major thing we had discussed at our last meeting, leading the work with whether we want to use the term equity or racial equity. We had a bit of a discussion there. I think the way it's worded is right. I think I would like some verbiage at the bottom that does mention that we lead with the racial equity lens, or we're leading with racial equity in this work because of, and we can define what that means and why. But I am happy to provide some language on that and propose to the group. But just in context of, that's the one indicator. If we look at disparity, hey Donald, if we look at disparity across even marginalized groups, race often can be an indicator, even within other marginalized groups, that there's a continued disparity. So I think historically we've seen that in this country. So I'll come up with some proposed language. I didn't have anything prepared today, but I'll bring that to the table for the group to look at.
Okay.
And then the only other thing that I saw was in the clear equity outcome at the very top, there was a piece around well-being, and I wanted some more clarity on what well-being is. And maybe, but I understand the point and what we're getting at, but maybe a little more clarity on what that is. And I'm open to.
No, I agree. That was my first question too. What do we really mean by well-being?
Yeah.
You know, what does that say? I guess, what are we trying to say? I'm just questioning that.
I also think great minds think alike in color coding. I don't know if you saw what I sent this afternoon, but I absolutely color coded it because that's how my brain works. And even a little bit. But I think, yes, that well-being is one thing. Also, thank you for that context regarding the racial equity piece, because that it felt too narrow to me, but I guess that's a great point, and I think adding, again, some context maybe at the bottom to just highlight that would be useful for folks.
I'm just going to highlight a few places because we hadn't done any specific language yet. Jessica, you did mention that you sent a few things over. Did you want to share that? I can stop sharing and you can present.
Sure. I suppose I have to share.
Or you can send it to me and I'll share it. Oh, sorry about that.
I sent it to the group. Let me just make sure. Oh, I sent it to the listserv, but maybe not everyone.
I'm going to stop sharing for a second and get that document, and we'll continue sharing in a second here. And while I'm there and looking for that document, Colleen, did you have any thoughts? Pass the mic, maybe.
No, I was, happy to have the edits, and the only thing I'm doing right now is, that a lot of that initial language, particularly for that first column, is from GARE, the Government Alliance for Racial Equity. And so I'm just peeking in there now to see if they have language around the condition of well-being. So I will, if I find that, I will share it. And similarly, I had in some of what I had written up made it just about equity, but that column was again kind of taken from GARE, and so I did use their language. I do have some language, Chris, that's like from Nina about why we center race. So I can send that to you in case it helps you to have like something to start from. But it might not be exactly the same for this group as it is for Nina. So feel free to take it or leave it.
Great. And I have that document. I'm going to go ahead and pull up Jessica's document as well. Fox, 1 second. I apologize. And share. Look at me driving. Yeah, I love the color coded. That's exactly what I was thinking.
I was like, great. Anyway.
Did you want to walk us through some comments?
Sure. So I think also you had 1, 2, 3, 4, and in my mind, in a weighting structure, I was thinking 4, 3, 2, 1, as far as like, if, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter to me, whichever way we'd like to do it. You know, we can go golf way or other sport way. And again, I think just, I wanted to add the questions along with like the left column there. So just a basic kind of overview as people are looking at some of these proposals or thinking about some of these things, like what are they trying to get at here? And just kind of boil it down a little bit more with context. Again, take it or leave it, but for the equity outcomes, what result is promised? Data and evidence is a little bit different than what you had. I think it's data collection, the other one, and they said who's impacted and how, and community engagement, who is at the table, equity strategies, what will actually change, and then implementation, can it actually be done? And again, or something along those lines, yeah. So I think that there is some, just a little more context, and I think it was probably going to get there at some point anyway, because that's obviously the direction we were going. But I think if there is specific language, obviously that like Nina uses, and we're using the language from GARE, and we want to stick to that, then absolutely like figure out how to incorporate both.
I really like this setup. I think this is great, and the questions being asked are very helpful. It's just the amount of details, I think, really, it makes the rubric more workable. I would suggest maybe looking at different language to insufficient, just because that's a triggering thing. We want, we want to make sure that people are using and looking at this as a working document. So we can come up with a little bit different language for that, but I just don't want this to be an excuse not to use it. Or like,
yeah, absolutely.
That's the point.
Exactly. Just, yes, for lack of a better word.
Oh yeah, and then things I think about like around well-being, I think about like thriving in place, that we're thinking about anti-gentrification, gentrification displacement, you know, like we don't want that to be the end result, and we're thinking about those things at the forefront, and the policy is helping uplift communities to thrive in place. So again, I was not prepared, so I'm going to put some language in and send it to the group. I don't think we're going to have this tool ready today, but I think just the discussion is helpful. Any thoughts, Colleen or Bill, on this specific tool?
I guess I'll just say that the language of well-being again was from the othering and belonging and GARE, and the way that they use it is like at the beginning of the process, you need to say like what you're trying to do before you can kind of go through these questions. So that's like the purpose of it. I don't think well-being is like, I think thriving, I guess I'm just saying, like, I don't think we have to keep well-being there. You know, as long as what we are asking helps the people who are working on the plan articulate what they're trying to do with their plan, is specifically around equity.
Sure.
So like, what are they trying to change? So if it's the housing plan, like what is their goal for how housing is going to be equitable in Fitchburg, you know? So that's, you know, and so thriving totally works, you know, and there's probably other language as well, but that's kind of the point of it, is to make them think that through before they go through the rest of the questions.
Sure.
So there is a second page to this. Just
Thank you.
again, thanks a little bit, AI. But I think that spelling out the goal is a great thing, and I think that's something that maybe along with the proposal up at the top, it's not just like bike and transportation plan, it's like bike and transportation plan expansion, bike and transportation plan maintenance, like, you know, what is the goal? It's the actual objective of the thing.
Mhm.
That could also, again, align people as to what they're reviewing and how to review it, like how to think about it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because if you're saying like, oh, we're gonna expand it, that's different than just maintaining, you know, and that lens we're looking at it with then becomes a little bit different, so.
I like that this gives a metric, and again, we can highlight where there might be some work in a specific area.
Yeah.
So that's really helpful. One, and I'll just bring this, it's in the links of the original document, back to the Seattle Equity Toolkit. I think there's also another example of another report, this Dowash Valley Action Plan, and they have a list of equity outcomes that they want to specifically see. That's in the front of the report. And I think that would be great if we get to that point where we actually are defining, here are the equity outcomes we want to see within this plan. Thanks to the toolkit, that helps us define those and do the engagement piece and really put a deeper lens around the policy to get to this point. So I think this is a great stepping off point to maybe get to that vision.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I was also looking for is like, how could they improve the thing if it's not up to snuff? You know, what do we mean by, you know, not insufficient but developing? And like, I'm sure people want to get there. So how can we, you know, giving that feedback is helpful.
Do you think there's enough for the scoring guide variability in numbers, like instead of a scale of 4, maybe like 7? And because like if you look at 2, it goes from developing, and then 3 is strong. Like, is there nothing in between there? And the answer could be no, could be yes. Just trying to look at those when we were doing this, looking at this with the H&I, when we were scoring those grants and trying to like give people some actual feedback between like these numbers, because that would be the point of like kind of putting them into rank and justification for whatever it is that we're scoring using this rubric. And my other question was, if you go back to the second page, what's the difference between, go down a little, approve with conditions and return for revision? Because like if we approve with conditions, I'm assuming they still have to go back and change something even though it's approved. Similarly to like return it for revisions and then make the revisions and it's approved. Or is it, or do those two things mean something different than the way I'm interpreting them?
I think I don't know enough to know if that is feasible or not, but in my head it was like as we did with I think the bike one, you know, that one we returned right for revision. We haven't seen that back yet.
No.
It won't be back for a while.
Exactly, right. So like, so that's not really approving with conditions, and it's not that we didn't approve it, it's that we want them to work on it some more. So.
It's not approved, work on it is basically what I hear, and
Yeah.
Approved, but we want some work in this area. Like there's a nuance there. There's either it's approved or it's not, that's the basic, right? And then there's approved, it looks great. Approved, we need this little piece worked on. Not approved yet, but you're close, and this is totally a working in progress piece. So like, that's how I see it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then I guess my other question would be, when we're using this, how many times does a person get to make edits to something like, so for example, let's say they approve it and we say return for revisions and mark up the document and say like, okay, here are the things that we came up with. They bring it back, but the things that they're still not sufficient, are we gonna send it back again? Or does it get denied, or have we talked about kind of that process?
I think that would, in my mind, that would be a discussion that we would have as a committee, and some clarity too, like, as a committee, we're an advisory committee, so we're not really approving anything. We're giving some advice and hoping that, I guess, in the essence of approval, we're saying this passes the muster of the equity committee in regards to this meets all the criteria, right? So even if it goes out of here and we say does not pass our muster, this still can go in front of the council and be passed there. So I just want to be very clear about that.
But I get what you're saying, but I think like everybody here is a professional and on this committee for a reason.
Yeah.
So like I don't, just like other committees where things pass through, they don't just pass and come to council before a vote. And usually if they do, it's an issue once we get to the council floor, and that now it's ended up going back all the way to the beginning to begin with. So I think like, wow, this is a, I guess, suggestions type of thing, but we also can be diligent in the work we do and make sure that things are like effective and usable. And if they're not, then mark it clearly around what we said or what we outlined. And then if council still decides to move it forward, then but we actually still did our piece.
Yeah. I think the other piece to this as well, and I think I've mentioned this in other meetings, that there's the benefit of using this tool early on so that we are addressing issues before it gets to that point. And hopefully the work is done before it gets here, that we're saying, yeah, easily, this meets our criteria, great job. And going back to the drawing board or revising is time and money, right? So if folks are using this toolkit at the front before it even comes to us, then there's not going to be that time of revision. Like, we've done the work, we're just reporting on the work that's been done, and hopefully, I guess there's one piece of having the toolkit, understanding where there might be a disparity in what the work is, and then how to mitigate that. But then there's also the piece of using the toolkit early in the process, long before it gets to us. And
yeah, so I think that's the dream, right? Like, before things go out for RFP, the council has this and says like, hey, so-and-so, like, these are the things that need to be included, and then it's really easy when it gets to us. But yeah, I mean,
that's the dream.
Bike transportation, one was like so far along, years in the making, and budget and time were.
Is Sarah coming back?
No.
Questions. Have we all talked about how, for example, like if this is the rubric and thing that we're going to adopt and like use widespread through other documents throughout the city or plans, at some point, do you think we should invite, and I don't know how, I'm just saying this out loud, I don't know if this is the proper way to do it, but us or the chair or someone go to departments or have departments come to the meetings and do presentations on how to use this, because I feel like if you don't know how to use it or like what you're looking for, just reading the categories might not suffice, especially the first time this is being thrown in front of someone. So if we create like I don't know, it doesn't have to be long, a small presentation where different departments can see it, or even if it's recorded and they can watch it, I think that'll help than just having them maybe potentially look at it without ever seeing it or using it before.
Yeah, we talked about that in our meeting with Sarah, and now that we have a GEAR membership, looking at the tools that are provided there, but also having one that's specific for us because we've already been asked to review different plans and documents as they come in, but we, again, didn't feel that we could do that without having some kind of analysis tool. Right. That's what this is. So this is the beginning step, and yes, that is the idea.
Gotcha.
And then also Sarah got us like what's coming up.
Okay.
So hopefully we can get ahead of some of those things. I mean, obviously some are well down the road, so.
So I'm just looking at the screen and want to open the space for Colleen since you're virtual and see if you had any other thoughts.
I don't have any other thoughts about the rubric. At some point, if we have time, I'd love to give you a quick update. I had a meeting with Sarah Lawton, who is the curriculum person at GARE. And yeah, so I can share back about that, but after we're done with this.
Thank you. I actually don't have a lot of notes to our document so far because I'm a part of the discussion, but I want to check in on process. I know, Bill, you had some thoughts as well.
I do. I'm just curious, can we go back to the document itself, the rubric? So, Jessica, am I correct then? You rewrote all of those sections more comprehensively? Is that what basically, because it's a lot different, I guess is what I'm saying, than it was. So I'm looking at what I have and what I highlighted and then kind of underlined and did some things, but now yours is, you know, I would need time to actually go back through it and reread it, the whole thing again.
Absolutely, and again.
Because you changed so much, which is fine. I'm just saying that it is quite a bit different than what it was if we're actually considering, you know, taking and doing something like what you're suggesting, which is fine. I'm okay with that. That's my only thought right at this moment, really, Chris. At this, you know, that because I came prepared to talk through this particular document. Jessica's looks great too, but it's a lot different.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to hear. I mean, I would love to hear what you noted and stuff. I think, you know, that's why we're here.
Do you want to take notes from Bill and then maybe you can incorporate into just some thoughts in regards to your toolkit?
Absolutely.
And we'll get a note to the rest of the committee just in regards to what we're thinking. I think this is again working. We're not voting on one or the other, but rather discussing, and maybe there's a little bit of combining.
Yes, for sure.
I mean, we can open it. I could go through it now, or we could get together just individually and, you know, work through it. Or how would you like to proceed with that? I have, you know.
We've got the time now. If you want to highlight that, maybe we can look at your thoughts.
I mean, just looking at each column going across, or excuse me, each going across row. Thank you.
Yes.
You know, again, I was looking for the definition of well-being, and was that the right word we wanted to use? And there's lots of different choices. I didn't come up with a different word, or, you know, there's definitely lots of synonyms for well-being, but I think, Chris, you described what you were thinking what well-being was. I don't know if we'll need maybe some definitions of things after this to as an addendum, or not. Maybe not. Maybe it'll be something that people will just recognize and understand. I don't know. But I looked across and I saw the word well-being in all categories. You know, all four in that row, there was the word well-being. So it was consistent, and I thought that was a good thing. And I looked through the whole document that way, looking for consistency. I saw even in the second row, data. Data is all there. The only thing I would have added was at the end of number 1, I would have said using data. So that data, the actual word data is there along with all the other terminology that's pretty specific and laid out. I didn't have any trouble with any of it. But if we're going to use those terms, you know, within the document, I think we should be consistent with it. Same thing with community engagement. I looked for the word engagement. It was there. The question I had on that particular row would be under number 2. Are we saying and again, it was just kind of more or less the way we want to word it, either past tense or present tense. Is it there was or there is a comprehensive engagement strategy with impacting communities, and that engagement is reflected in the proposed strategies. I don't know if we want to mix those two, past tense and present tense. You know, again, those are just little things that I as I read through it, I'm going, you know, maybe we could tweak this a little bit here and there. You know, even number 4 has the word engage, so you're still talking engagement, community engagement. It's there in the third row. The 4th row was the word racial, like what you had said. The one suggestion I had would possibly could add to that, and I know Madison's racial equity analysis tool had a really nice definition of equity in it, and right on the front of it. So it was right there so that when you looked at that tool, you knew what they referred to as equity. And they also referred to not just social justice. They said racial and social justice, maybe incorporating that language in might be appropriate. I think of social justice as being a big part of when we talk about racial equity. I think of social justice also as a big part of that, and obviously Madison, their city does as well. So that was a big highlight they had throughout their tool. Let's see. Again, the word strategy all the way across is in every one of those columns as well, or that row all the way across. So I didn't see anything really to add or delete necessarily in that row. Under implementation plan, again, I was looking through it, looking for like how things were worded. After the word ensured, I thought maybe to include a clear equity outcome, as well as ongoing data collection, comma, then reporting, or no, I'm sorry, take the comma out, reporting, and then community engagement. So again, just a little different wording there, possibly.
So you said...
Does that make sense?
Bill, that was after ensure.
So, yeah, after ensure, comma, ongoing data, let me see. No, a clear equity outcome. Yeah. And then comma, ongoing data collection, reporting, and community engagement.
Did you say racial equity or equity outcome?
I had the word equity.
Okay.
When I did that particular one. The rest of it seemed good or fine as far as wording in that to me. I didn't see anything that necessarily I thought was not clear in its understanding. The last row, I looked for that, specifically how that blended then all of the other categories, and you look for words like community, which is obviously there in all of those 4 categories. I think I said in the number 3 on that row, plan includes strategies to document rather than just strategy. And then in the very last, number 4, plan does not include an evaluation and or communication strategy. Let's see, progressing towards equity. I think I said towards an equity. So I guess I inserted after communication, processing toward an equity outcome. But I guess I missed. I noticed there was a little row at the very that went on to a second page, and I didn't catch that. So maybe it's okay. I'm not sure. But those were just some of the things that as I looked at it, thinking about if I was a person who had never seen this document before, what would I be looking? How would I understand this? And like I said, it's pretty clear. I guess to Donald's comment about one half is pretty much okay. You're almost there, or you're there, and the other half is more or less saying, no, we need more input, we need more work from you on the document.
Yeah.
I think there was just one under data collection. Going back up to that, the number 1 and number 2, I didn't see a clear difference between those 2 as much, and maybe that was just me. They seemed to be very close, almost too close, but it's hard to say. I didn't see the difference. But other than that, that was about what my thoughts were, at least initially. But maybe somebody can, So I could, do you want me to read those two ones quick, Chris? Under data collection?
Yeah, that'd be great.
So number one, plan includes strategies to mitigate disparate outcomes using data. I had said put that in, use the word data. And then this number two says data shows how people and communities differently situated are disparately impacted by the issue. So you have differently situated versus strategies to mitigate. So that maybe is that the difference there? Is that something it seems so tight to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. And maybe it's just a grammatical or just a way of thinking, but
Yeah, I think that's why
it's just.
Yeah.
I mean, as I went through it, those were kind of a few of the things that
I think for me what is helpful is the other toolkit asking the question, and it's hard to look side by side because I don't have them side by side.
Right.
But I want to view them both side by side and see what the language says. And I appreciate you using an online tool and really kind of define some of that and hopefully differentiate that. But I think those are good points. And again, to Donald's point, like how to use this tool.
Right.
Really giving some clear guidelines, and I appreciate that.
I really like the checklist at the bottom that you came up with, Jessica. I mean, I thought that was, where you could actually put a score in and indicate, because I think we need some narrative to this too.
Yeah.
Somewhere. I don't know how exactly, what that'll look like, but.
yeah. I think that's where my head was at. I just reviewed summer term scholarships at the university. We love a rubric there, so everything's weighted. So I think that's where my head was at. Like, we need a way to quantify it so that we can say also, like, we looked at these all with the same guidance. I mean, obviously our own experiences and all of that, but yeah. So I appreciate that.
I think to Donald's point too, to find if there's a way to maybe put that weighting in the scoring piece a little more maybe broader and a little more definition there as well. But maybe Donald, if you've got some suggestions, we'd love to hear them. Just send a message.
Okay.
I did want to highlight that Janice is here, and hello, Janice. How are you?
Hi. Sorry, guys. Sorry, I'm late. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Some technical difficulties on this end. Yeah.
Good to see you. Glad you're here.
Mm-hmm.
Going to open the floor to you, Janice, if you had some thoughts. We did just give you a highlight. Jessica did have an additional tool that was sent out based on this initial tool that provided, I think, a little more detail. There is some color added to it to kind of differentiate between the different categories we're looking at, between green and red. And then another piece where we were actually adding, putting together some numeric value to our analysis to give some feedback to those providing a request to looking at different reports and documents or proposals for us. And so that's kind of where we're at, and we're kind of going in the minutia of the first toolkit and second, and I don't think we're going to get anywhere today in regards to finalizing our toolkit, but probably push us to doing some work outside on the document and then bring that back for maybe a final vote later. But I wanted to ask if you have any questions or thoughts.
Not really. I didn't see Jessica's, but the only thing when I was looking at it, I just want to make sure we're being consistent in wording. And so, and I was listening to someone who was speaking just a little while ago, and I certainly support and agree with him. That's words engagement and et cetera, et cetera. So otherwise, it's I thought it was a good document, with just a little bit of key tweeting or what have you. But I think it's a good document personally, so I don't have a ton of stuff to say on it at this point.
And also, I think just recognize that this is once even we approve it and we vote on it and say yes, we will continue to edit it and change it and time as we use it because it's a living document. So we want to make sure that it makes sense.
Yeah. We'll wordsmith it along the way. Yes, but otherwise, I thought she did a really good. Colleen did a good job in laying that out.
Especially as people use it, then you're like, oh,
Yeah, this is
that's
what
how
we
you're
meant.
using it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that may not.
Yeah,
make sense.
yeah.
I'm going to give a moment. Is there anything else around this toolkit in our discussion that is additive? Otherwise, I'm going to propose that we move this to a working document that we can put together and then present one last time at hopefully our next meeting and adopt it. Or I think it'll be useful to do a little more working on the minutia and the things that we've discussed offline. Is that allowable? First of all, Alder, for us to do the work offline since we're a group. Okay, just making sure. I want to make sure we're meeting public meeting requirements.
It just depends on like how many people are meeting.
Okay, I think it would be a working document and email. So
you're good.
Okay.
Just don't reply all if
Okay.
you're doing edits and stuff.
Okay, good, great. So we're not meeting quorum. Again, quorum is 4, so max 3 communication, and we'll work on it.
Is there like a data dictionary, or not a data dictionary, but like or an almanac or something for certain words in here that carry certain meaning in this context and like doing this work that folks may question or leave open to interpretation that we would define so they use it in the right way?
That's a good question.
I think, Bill, your point of having maybe a glossary of definitions will be helpful, but I think that's important. And before we were all here, I'd also mentioned that having, and maybe this is a cover letter or a cover sheet that goes on top of it, there's a glossary of terms and also definitions of like what the city of Madison has done, what they mean by equity, inclusion, and justice, social justice. Another piece that I wanted to add to that was an asterisk of why we lead with race in this work, and that we're very clear about that yes, we're looking at equity, social justice, but we're very clear that we are leading with the racial equity lens as we're doing this work. And so there'll be additional pieces, and I think that's an important piece that we have to put on top of this as we finalize it.
So hopefully, as you're also looking at when I put together, I think that's what I was struggling with. Like I didn't have all the definitions, and so like I tried to incorporate that, but it is just, I know people don't like to read all the things.
Yeah.
And so, as many addendums and all that, if we can try to get it to a place that's like easy to use, I think people will use it more.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to
User
add,
friendly.
Again, I think that was the whole impetus for us to
Yes.
create a new toolkit, was not to have a very complicated one, but one that's usable. So I agree. I think also thinking back to other toolkits, like the city of Madison, the city of Seattle, they do have a glossary of terms. So in our communications, I'll make sure that I'll bring that to the table again. I think it is already linked in the original document, but let's go ahead and bring that to the surface as an example. So Bill, I'll bring, what I'll do is I'm gonna propose that I'll do some of the working from our discussion today and then bring it back to the group. And then if folks can make comments on it, then I'll finalize it and bring it to the next meeting.
Okay. Yeah, you'll see.
So Chris,
I'm sorry, Janice. There's actually, like I said, instructions on here. Then they even list their mission and vision. What that is, and then they have a couple of simple definitions, and then what the purpose of that tool is.
Sure.
So, what is the purpose of this? Why are we asking to do this? And I like Donald's idea of getting the head individuals of each each organization within the city of Fitchburg to come to the table and say, and give us feedback then too, on what they think after we get it done, get it out, see what their thoughts are. Is it usable? Is it something that would make a difference for them as well? Et cetera. So, yeah. And I'll just be in support of Jessica's 4-3-2-1.
Thank you.
Janice,
Like my brain doesn't.
Jessica's toolkit we reordered on the rubric. Anyways, you'll see it in a bit. But I want
Okay.
that's a big, kind of one of the main
Okay.
changes. So, any other thoughts about the next steps? And I'd like to have that back to y'all the next couple days.
Well, I just have a question. At our last meeting, there was a question that came up about leading with racial. Was that discussed again? And I know we talked about it last week. There was a question is why we were leading it with racial versus equity. Did that come up again at all? I'm just curious.
I had brought up that I'd like to put, again, in this, whether it's the cover sheet or at the bottom of the actual toolkit with an asterisk that that we are committed to leading with the racial equity lens and defining the purpose of why. And so I'll put some definition around that and bring that within the document that I bring forward. But it could be both within the cover and an asterisk down below, just to keep that reminder and at the top of folks' minds as they're analyzing and actually using the tool. But I think the wording otherwise in the actual rubric that only says equity, I think that's fine. But somewhere in the document that we're making the case for using a racial equity, leading with racial equity as we do this work.
Okay. I just knew that we talked about it a little bit at the last meeting. I didn't know if it had been further discussed. Thank you, though.
Sure.
No, I agree with you, Chris. I'm in support of that. I think that's a good way to word it. Racial equity.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Great. Well, I'll put some work into this and get it out to the group in the next couple of days, and so you keep an eye out for that. And then we'll have a pretty, hopefully, final version at the next meeting that we can give final comment on and hopefully move to adopt.
Okay.
Do we know, because wasn't Sarah gonna invite
Yes.
people
Oh, yeah, like
to
the
the meetings?
Yeah.
Is that the next meeting?
That's, I believe, the next meeting, and I forget who that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thought so.
Very good.
I'm going to share the agenda real quick again so we can keep our city engaged, and I gotta find it. Sorry, I'm lost. I thought I was doing good. See, I was too quick to say I was.
You know how to get to it?
I had it a moment ago. So the only other, I'm going to move on to the last agenda item for us, and that's, I don't know what number that is, number 5 or 6.
Oh,
It's the last agenda item, and it's for any announcements that we would like to share as committee members. So I'll open the floor for any upcoming events or announcements you'd like to share.
Well, I've got one in June. It's a little bit down the ways, but for Juneteenth, having a big event over at the Senior Center upstairs in the community room. I have a award-winning author who wrote the book Juneteenth, coming, Dr. Charles Taylor, and and then we have a songstress and a poet coming, and it's all around Juneteenth. So I'll be having flyers out, and I'll certainly share that with you. But it's going to be on June 17th. It's going to be really good, really good.
Great.
Hope you all will come on that. He's an author of the book Juneteenth. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that or not.
Nice, that's awesome.
And I found the agenda, sorry. Thank you, Janice.
Mm-hmm.
This is for, I also sit on the Vernon Area School Board, and there's an upcoming event for our GSA, our Gay Straight Alliance, called Always There Fair, happening on May 9th, Saturday, from 9 until, I think it's throughout the day, but there's a fair in the beginning of the day, and it's really for our LGBTQ students and families, and really support them with resources to show that they're an important part of our community in the Vernon Area School District. So I highly recommend anyone who's available to be there and support our families and community.
Thank you.
I've got one other just little announcement. At NINA, we have a community of practice, and we feature a speaker most months, and our next speaker is going to be on, they are always the second Wednesday of the month over the lunch hour, and our next speaker is going to be Deepa Iyer, who is the author of a tool and a book called The Social Change Ecosystem. We use her work quite a bit, and I find her very helpful and accessible. So I can send information to folks if you're interested in joining. We'd love to have you on the call.
Thank you. Great. And with that, I think we're towards the end of our meeting, and we've got some more homework to do. Really appreciate everyone's attendance and being here today, and your hard work doing the homework. I will take a motion to adjourn.
Second that motion.
Could I actually disrupt that for a
Sure.
second? So sorry.
No problem.
Is it okay if I give you a quick update about my meeting with Sarah Lawton?
Oh, please.
Oh, yes.
Okay. It won't be long, but it's relevant to everything we're working on right now. So Sarah Lawton works for GARE on their national team, but she's located here in Madison. And I've worked with her over the years. So she and I had coffee, and I just talked to her about our work, and there were two kind of interesting things that I thought would be worth sharing back. One is that she would be glad to come to one of our meetings, or if there's another kind of opportunity to, another more appropriate time for her to come talk to folks, like maybe the staff at Fitchburg, like she can come do that. And then she also kind of walked me through the GARE like resource site, and through that I learned that they have a series of different short video modules. And so I know one of the things we had been talking about was the resources can actually feel kind of overwhelming to people. And so what she said is like there's actually like a kind of clear pathway that we can share with staff of, the first thing you should do is watch this video, and so anyway, I just wanted to share that back because as they are starting to use this tool, it'll be really important for them to have some baseline shared understanding. And so that's all. I just wanted to let you know that was where that landed. And if you want me to invite Sarah in the future, I'm happy to do that.
That's great. Thanks for doing that legwork and making that connection. That's really helpful. GARE's a super incredible resource for us, and yeah, I think having Sarah come in and present, maybe answer some questions for us around GARE and some of those tools, and maybe present maybe what that pathway looks like would be, I think, insightful. Then also Sarah Olson from our Human Resources is managing the GARE membership, so I think there might be an opportunity too outside just for official city business to make that connection stronger too. But yeah, I'd love to hear from Sarah. Cool. Sorry, any other last announcements? Great. I'll try again. Take a
Sorry.
No problem. Take a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
So, second.
Second. Noted. And then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much. Have a good week.